Well, hey there team, and welcome back to the channel, and God help me, welcome to Kerbal Space Program. It's 2022, it's January, which is very slow on YouTube, and I've sort of decided to go back to the 6 videos a day Let's Play format. So there's this window where I'm going to basically fill up my rotation with a bunch of games that I want to be playing, and we'll just see how they hang on the channel, right? So we'll see, you know, the new releases are probably a week or two out, but January is quite slow from a YouTube and from an industry perspective. So Kerbal I actually want to play some more of. So we're going to fire it back up again, much to the dismay or happiness of many, because I'm not very good at this game. Though I have played it in drips and drabs off the channel. I've learned a little bit, but I try not to go too hard in it. I hold a huge disdain for people that just copy paste answers. There's something to be said about reverse engineering, you know, if anyone's done degrees in that, especially like, because I've gone through engineering. There's something to be said with taking the solution and working back and unpacking it, sure, but from my time covering like stationeers and all that, you'd get a lot of, you know, these friggin' Andys in the chat bloody beating their chest about how they know all about how to code, and all they ever did was go to a Reddit forum and just copy paste someone else's script, right? What am I talking about? Basically, Kerbal, I try not to Google it too much. As someone that doesn't know anything about rocketry or astronomy or anything like that, I'm not quick to jump on Google and figure out the answer there. I like the community helping me, and that's been great in the past. And you know, I go and learn and poke and prod, but it is still very much a beginner with, let's say, for lack of a better term, an engineering mind, figuring his way through it. So I know some of the basics, right? But beyond doing orbit of the main planet and all that, I've never really gone past there. I have aspirations of building space stations, going to other planets, obviously, and trying to do landings. And I still do like the idea of a fully recoverable craft, or as much as possible. So something that can potentially learn back on Kerbal through atmosphere. And yeah, just I like the idea of having stations for refueling and all that. I don't really know what the scope of this game is, but my hope is that, you know, we can realize some cool projects. So anyway, that's where we're going. If for some reason you don't know what the hell this is, it's a bloody old game. The sequel is in development hell. Apparently it might be coming out next year. Big maybe, who knows? There's all sorts of legal crap going on with that. But this is an incredibly hardcore rocketry and orbital object simulator, right? Which I have no right to be playing. So that's how we're going to go. We're going to start new. And we'll call it, Squarehead Space Program. That sounds pretty good. Let's do that. We'll keep the Kerbal flag. We're going to do Korea, because I quite like the idea of Korea. I have no interest in sandbox and all that, and I don't really have a creative spirit. You give me a problem to solve, that's where I'll become creative. You give me a sandbox and tell me to come up with my own problems, I'll uninstall. That's just how I am. I know I'm not the only person that way. Cool. Off we go. So this is not really going to be a tutorial, though I'll explain my way as I go. You're welcome, you know, to backseat in the comments and all that. Try not to be that dickhead that puts 20 posts per video on, you know. We all see you. But I appreciate the help. You know, absolutely. But here we go. Okay, cool. So one of the first things, if I recall, that we want to do is we go mission control, and we can take 2 contracts at a time, launch our first vessel, gather scientific data from Kerbal. That sounds cool. Let's take that, and let's take that. Okay, cool. Leave facility. Now we've got, how much we got here? $28,000. That's not a huge amount of money, actually. Because if you want to upgrade these buildings, 220,000. I'm not missing a zero, am I? No. All right, so we're going to have to earn a little bit of money. And ultimately, the core loop of this sort of mode that we're on, as I understand it, is where is R&D? Here it is. We have a research tree. We have 0 research, but, you know, we want to unlock sexier bits of kit because we've got very bare bones. There's a lot, and it all gets very expensive as well. And we get science pretty much from doing these missions. We get funding, but we also get science for the achievement. So the funding is kind of secondary, you know, as long as you've got enough money in the bank, off you go, you know. All right. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to, no, not the engineer report. There's here. Gather scientific data, right? Recover or transmit any scientific experiment from Kerbin. Well, that's pretty straightforward. And launch your first vessel off the launch pad or runway to achieve the goal. Well, I mean, if all we need to do is transmit scientific data from the launch pad. Now, what scientific goobers do we have? We have this. We have the mysterious goo. So we'll just plonk that on the side of our little pod. Is that it? Is that all we've got? Yeah, cool. You know what? We're going to call this Bronk 1. We're going to save it. And then we're going to launch it. It's a pod with some goo on it. Oh, it's going to be great. I think I should get away with this. Now, I've seen, I think speedrunners and all that. Apparently, technically, there are different biomes, right? So the planet's sort of, in a way, is its own biome, but you've got the different over the sea is a biome. I think there are different sort of peninsulas and all that, so you can get scientific readings from them. And then as you go further out, there are other planets that you can get readings from there as well, right? But I think technically all of these facilities count as biomes. So if you want to be a real fucking sweaty neckbeard no-lifer, you can make a little car and drive around to each of these to get to, you know, sort of jam up your science, right? I have no interest in trying to game the system and break it, right? So what we're going to do here is just take, you can right click and you can go observe, right? And then we'll just keep the experiment. And then we'll go, I think we can do a crew report as well. Crew report, keep experiment, recover vessel. So that should just give us an observation of Kerbin, of the biome, right? So we'll go there, just recover the ship. Jebediah, our default boy, he's pretty happy with that. Look at that, we got 6.5 science. And how much do we need? We need 5. All right, so this will give us a better booster, liquid fuel propulsion, and this will give us decoupling technology and more science. We'll take that, actually. I'll take that for now. So that's handy. And if we go over here, mission control, you can see archives we completed. Gather scientific data from Kerbin. Okay, well, that's cool. Escape the atmosphere. Geez, that's pretty big straight out of the gate, isn't it? Well, let's take that one, right? So at the moment we've got launch our first vessel and escape the atmosphere. Okay, well, let's give that a bloody red hot go. So, we'll continue with Gronk 1. We might put a parachute on it. That's probably a good idea. I don't really want Jeb to die. I don't know if we've got any heat shielding or anything yet. I don't think so. Where does that live? Fuel tanks. Boom, boom, boom. I love this music. Right, we've got a thermometer, which is more scientific, you know, doodacky. Let's just bung that there. Well, we've got a decoupler, you know, so that's cool. Let's plonk that there. And then we've got a crappy little booster engine, right? And then all of this is staged, like the building is the complexity. The launching's not that hard. It's mostly pressing spacebar to start a new stage. So what we'll do is we'll have this as the first stage here, which will just fire off the booster, which is solid fuel. It's fire and forget, basically. It's no throttle, no complicated anything. Then we'll fire the decoupler, and then we'll fire the parachute. So the plan will be just launch this up, straight up as hard as it can go, and then and hopefully we don't die. And if we land, we'll be able to recover it, which is good, you know? So let's do that. Bum, 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 bum. Now, we can put stability assist. Is that how it works? We don't have RCS engines, but we have stability assist. So if we do that, essentially you're instructing your low-level pilot, little Jeb down here, to try and keep this thing as bloody straight as you can. On you know, if we leave it there, he'll do everything within his power to keep it steady. Now, if you make this long and give it ridiculous aerodynamic profiles or whatever, that might be impossible. You know, he might not have the capacity to do that. But still, that's the idea there. As I understand it, now I could be wrong, but this is my gatherings from playing this game. All right, so we're just going to fire off this bloody rocket. Off we go. Off we go. Look at this, he's having a great time. He's having a fucking blast. All right. You can see it's drifted a little bit. Let's observe the goo while we're up here. Oh, we're almost going to make it through the next layer of atmosphere. Can I... Yeah, I think that'd be log temperature. Can I reset this goo? Reset goo. Observe. Yeah, I wouldn't mind a reading up in this layer of whatever the fuck. All right, so we're going to hit the next stage. Get rid of the booster, right? And if you go to map, you can probably see it. It's not going to be huge, but you can see his little orbital profile. We're about to hit the apoapsis there, which you can, or is it apoaps? Do you not say the cis on the end? I can't be sure. I don't know, but you can see there we're sort of past our peak, and the idea is to turn that into a radial profile. So you'd want to push this out past the aerodynamic or the atmospheric profile, right? So you don't have the drag component. And then you'd probably want to throttle it near the top to widen it to run the loop out. Anyway, we can turn SAS off and just let it do its own aerodynamic thing on the way back down. And we can pop the parachute now. It's fine. Where are we? 8,000 meters. And then you can speed up. And hopefully we don't die. Anytime now you want to grab the air, that'd be okay. Very good. Well, that's... Oh, and there's our booster fucking exploding somewhere off in the abyss. What is that? I wonder what that is. Anyway, hopefully it's a safe landing. Cool. And then we'll just recover. Cool beans. So you can transmit your observational data if you don't plan on landing the vessel, but you only get a fraction. Look at this. Look at all that science we got. While flying at Kerbin. Over Kerbin's shores. Ah, okay. So they were two technically different ones because of probably our geolocation at the time. Mission control. Look at this. We're up to $130,000. And look at all these bloody contracts that have opened right out. Right out. Conduct focused observation. Yeah, right. So a lot of these are sort of just going to be procedural, gimme, kind of crap objectives. But it depends, right? Because I believe you'll get... Do you get science for completing them, technically? You get money. There you go, get some science for some of them. Okay, you can get a fraction of science for some of them. Interesting. Haul parachute into flight. Wait, haul the Mark 16 parachute into flight above Kerbin? That seems pretty straightforward. Let's just do that. Assuming I've got the Mark 16 parachute unlocked. Is that the default? Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, it is too. So if I were to check here, have this parachute, which we do. Kerbin, flying. So I believe if you accidentally go into orbit, that won't count. Altitude 2,000 to 7,000. And speed. Oh, that's okay. We could probably do that. We could probably do that with this vessel, actually. Before we go doing that, though, let's see if we can unlock anything with our science. Specifically, I wouldn't mind more telemetry stuff, which I can get from here, but, it's probably smarter to just get the basic rocketry, just unlock it all fairly sequentially. Yeah, we can get a barometer, landing strut, radiator panel. Okay, let's research those. And then now we've only got 8, and it looks like 18 and 20. Okay, that's fine. Well, we'll chuck the barometer on the pod. Just keep piling scientific instrumentation onto this thing. It shouldn't affect the center of gravity too much, though we have widgets to work all that out. Center of gravity, center of thrust, center of mass. It's all fairly even Steven, to be honest. I'm actually just going to launch this and see if we can tick over that parachute one, get that tiny little bit of science, you know. Every little bit helps. Because yeah, again, the funding's not the thing, and we're recovering a lot of our vessel as well. All right, here we go. Tick, tick, flying, altitude, and the hope is that we hit that speed at that altitude, which we should, and all we have to do is just haul it. Okay. Flying. Uh-oh. My bad. I should have put SAS on there. Well, we've hit the altitude, but I don't think we're going to hit the speed. Let's revert that. Now, when I played this back in the day, I would see every single flight through. But the watchability of it, especially the audience that we attract in, a little bit more hardcore, probably already familiar with the game. People didn't love that. So reverting back to flight for a re-roll is sort of what the consensus was. Okay, here we go. Speed. We've got the speed. Oh, we've overdone the speed. You can see there. So we're going to hit the altitude. Surface speed. Oh, look at that. Oh, look, we've overshot it. So we overshot the 7,000. Now, I don't know if we count as flying on the return down. So let's just see. It does say flying. Right, our speed's coming down. We're coming back to the altitude now. We're going slightly too fast. Oh, I don't suppose this will slow it down. There we go, there we go, there we go. Fuck yeah, we got it all. Okay, cool. Well, let's just land this. Yeah. So you can put like second stage drag chutes on your pod as well, which is probably a good idea, especially once it gets heavier. I've had instances where maybe I'm coming in rotational velocity, because you actually have to get very high rotational velocity to get orbit. Because the way that I envision it in my mind, here you go, an idiot explaining it to other idiots perhaps. I think of it as like if you were to tip something over, like a bottle or something, I don't know, hold a pencil up or something like that, and it falls over, right? And the idea is, but if you put a rocket on the bottom of that bottle or whatever, that phallic shape, as it's falling, so you tip it to fall to the side, but then you put a rocket under it and you push it. But if you put enough velocity under it, it shouldn't actually hit the ground. So you sort of have this rotational vector of up and around, and if you get it right, you'll get to a point where it's perpetually falling, especially if it's an aerodynamically sound design. It's perpetually falling over, but it's also infinitely rotating around the planet. That's how I see orbit in my eye, essentially. But the thing is, once you get to the point where you're outside of atmospheric drag, and you're falling in a rotational vector, you actually don't need upwards sort of force. You actually don't need an upwards or outwards or whatever you'd like to call it, like a normal force. I think would probably be the right way to do it, like to counter the gravitation. I think you would just need a pure rotational vector. I think that's around about 2,000 meters per second, something like that. And you have to be at about 70,000 meters to be outside of that atmosphere, because if you have atmosphere creating drag, that's a force that you're going to need to counter. So ultimately, you want to get to a point where you have an infinite, perpetual sort of motion set up where you don't require thrust to maintain the orbit. Anyway, that's how I understand it, but I could be wrong, absolutely. But I've had some interesting experiments out of that as well, which I've tried to sort of fasten. I've tried to grab a hold of. I suppose that's the right term, but maybe I could pick something better. Yeah, so I've done some experimenting where I found that because the planet rotates, sun rises in the east, the planet rotates toward the east. But funnily enough, if you let the rocket go, an aerodynamic rocket, but you don't put any sort of impulse on it to tilt it, I believe it will try and tilt to the west, which kind of makes sense. As soon as it takes off, I'm using my hands, you can't see it, but if you fire straight up and the planet below you immediately is going east rotational, it's sort of going to flick the bottom of the rocket. This is how I see it. So if you turned SAS off and you made this thing straight as an arrow and perfectly aerodynamic, it's going to try and roll to the west, which doesn't help you actually, which is sort of counter-helpful. So I believe there's a thing called a turnover maneuver I've looked at before, and I think it lines up with, the way that I see it conceptually. I feel that you take off, you get a little bit of thrust going, and at a certain point you actually bump the ship to the east, and you create, it's like tipping the bottle over that I was talking about before. You essentially create the force to tip it so that your rocket is now, in inverted commas, falling, right? And so you create the scenario where it's falling, and then from there, I believe it should kind of drive itself as long as you give it enough thrust. Anyway, I think so. That might just be I'm not trying to dumb it down because I'm too dumb to dumb something down. But that's how I see it. Anyway, we completed that contract. We got a little bit of science. What else can we do? I might just keep scraping up the science, eh? What's this? 3. Test Swivel liquid fuel engine in flight over Kerbal. Okay, let's take that one. It's cool, little projects. This is what I need. I need objectives. Now I'm curious if it will stop giving me science for these low-level things, or if I can just do 2 science at a time until I clock the game. I don't know. I kind of hope it will dry up, and it forces me to take bigger bites of the pie. But maybe someone can tell me about that. All right. So the Swivel liquid fuel engine is this, which we've got LV TAC T45, Kerbal flying. Altitude, that's suborbital just, and that's speed as well. Okay, cool. So what we'll do, there's our engine, but we're going to need fuel for it. So we're going to need a little fuel pod. Let's pull that out. Let's put this here, and we'll connect that up. So now we have our sort of final liquid fuel stage. And we'll put a decoupler under here. Now, what have we got in the way? We do have a bit of a bigger booster. So let's put this thing, this hammer. Now, stage. We can probably stage these together. And then I guess we could get rid of the... How much does this thing cost? $1,200. And the booster's like $400. So you kind of... I mean, whatever. We've got plenty of money. But if you could, trying to recover the liquid fuel engine might be wise. But I don't know. I don't really know how the economy works out in this game. Anyway... We're just going to thump it. We're just going to thump it straight up and sort of see what the telemetry tells us, how our altitude and speed works out with this. We don't want to burn up. Let's give this a go. This is cool coming back to it. Anyway, a little bit of a side sort of, like, it feels weird trying to teach this. Like, I can teach you some of my short fallings because I'm dumb. But I'm absolutely... I know there are channels built on, they are astrophysicists that play this, right? I think this is more interesting to have an inquisitive mind. Like, I think most people that buy this aren't astrophysicists or whatever the fuck. They're probably like me. They're probably some dickhead that likes cogs and moving parts and maybe tinkers with engines and stuff. So I think maybe I'm a bit more relatable to the normies, being that I'm the most hardcore casual gamer that there is. Anyway, I digress. Let's pull this up and have a squiz. We've got SAS on. Wonderful. I actually really like this because this tells me the apoaps. There. Okay, cool. You can see it's already moving slower. Now we've got thrust to weight ratio and all that sort of crap. I'm not worried about that just yet. We've got the speed, but look, we'll overshoot. Oh, we need to test it as well, so we need to fire it when we get to there. Oh, altitude 59,000, and we made it to what? 9,000? I'll stage, and I'll just fire this rocket, bugger it. But oh, we're going too fast. Oh, shit. Let's just turn that off. Let's just turn that off. I don't know, let's see. We'll just keep going straight up, see how it bloody goes. 8,000. See, we're still, oh, 800, sorry. We're still banging it. I might wait till it hits 300. No, look, we're still, well, the other thing is consider we're getting to very thin atmosphere as well. So the amount of thrust to maintain this speed will actually be not super significant. Oh, but I'm also out of fucking fuel. So that doesn't help. Let's go revert flight. And we'll go to the vehicle assembly. Now let me think about this. We did get some wind resistance, but it wasn't the end of the world. What we might actually do is we'll implement another booster. Though, part of me wonders if we might actually be able to sort of limp there with a bit more liquid fuel. You know, not ideal, but that's the point. There's multiple ways to solve these problems. Plus, this won't mess up my staging quite as much. Let's give that a go. That's going to make us a chunk heavier, so we're probably not going to get quite as far on the booster. But I'll be more sensible with the throttle this time as well. And you know, I guess there are arguments about trying to punch through the thicker atmosphere as hard and as fast as possible, versus potentially just going slow and steady, because, you know, each second spent in the thicker atmosphere is a second less efficiency, right? But I don't know, I'm just sort of musing at the moment. You can throttle up with shift and control, you can see down there. I'll bring up the metrics. So 300 meters. So let's just do that. I haven't throttled up at all, but let's just give it a little touch. Sort of slowing down a bit. Maybe we'll just get out of this atmosphere here. And then we'll throttle it right off. We'll just let it slow. We'll just let it slow down to this thing here. I don't know if this is wise or not, whatever. Here we go, I'll give it a little love tap while it slowly walks back. What do we want? 60,000 odd, and we're about halfway. Oh, there we go, we're in the speed range now. We could probably speed up. Now, it's switched to orbit. Can I go back to surface? I can. Okay, that's nice. Will we get there? No, not quite. 59, 50. Yeah. Okay, that's kind of cool though. Like that's part of the fun for me, is experimenting and figuring it out. What we'll do is we'll go with what was potentially the original plan. I will put that back together. We're only going to need just enough fuel to test, and I'll chuck this little hammer. I might even chuck the little hammer on the bottom. You know, just bust and dump on that early atmosphere. Now, no, we don't want that staging together. That on its own, then these two together, then these two together. There we go. Okay, cool. Just get that explosive little boy to get us going, get the ball rolling. But then, of course, maybe you want to stack this first atmosphere nub with even more thrust, and then maybe you build a whole ring of 5 rockets around, you know, this first phase, and then get rid of them to get rid of all that weight as soon as possible. You know, this is all sorts of stuff. Anyway, we're not trying to get orbit anyway, so I'm happy to just go straight up. Look at that. All that fuel's gone already. Off we go, baby. Send it, send it, send it, send it. So yeah, you can judge by this apoapsis, whatever. Sort of get an idea of how high we're going to go. Maybe we push it out a bit here, eh? 50, 60. Uh-oh. Might have overdone it there. 75. So it's fallen off, but basically at this current rate, we will pass that altitude, which is good. We're just speeding along. We've still got some fuel. Hopefully this actually works out, that we... Now, that 75, that will take us outside of the atmosphere, but our curve will not favour orbit. So while we would technically go out of the sort of atmosphere, yeah, we will still fall back down to Earth. So you need the two things working together. 55, I might have overdone it here. Oh, no, we've got between 59 and 67. Okay, well, we're in the range now. Just need it to slow down. Oh, I've made a mistake. Oh, no. Yeah, no, I think 5. Oh, it's going to be so close. You know, we just missed it. There's potential that on the way back down, we might be able to do something with it. Similar to what we did with the other thing. Let's just turn SAS off and let it find its own profile. Though it's not like there's wind resistance out here to direct it. So we're coming back down now. We're going way too fast though. All right. Oh yeah, hang on. No. Can I just like... Oh, I couldn't quite do it. Just to slow its descent, basically. Oh, it's all good. We're there. A bit of test and adjust, you know. Let's just can we revert flight? Revert to vehicle assembly. All right. Save. Leave. But okay, cool. That's fine. And we should be able to save from here. Okay, cool. So a bit of Kerbal. Like I said, I thought I'd just put it out there. You know, it's not like there's going to be a real opportunity for Kerbal to come back into, I don't know, popular traffic flow between now and the release of the second ones. And like I said, January slows down a bit, so it's a good opportunity for me to look at some stuff because it's already slow anyway. So let me know if you find this interesting, if you want to jump on board as an idiot figures out how to play an incredibly complex game well above his pay grade. I'd be happy to do more episodes, so just let me know. Let me know, Tim. All right, we might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.